Some people would call 2006, 2007 the worst time to buy a house. I think I disagree. I learned how to do the business correctly during the peak time. So as the market crashed, I was able to continue doing it, and I was growing and I had my education. I was very hungry, very aggressive. So I bought all the way down and then I bought all the way up. And if you remember, like when you have a crash, you don't know when the bottom is until it's past. You can only look back. I was buying through the bottom. Now that I've ridden that wave all the way up to where the market is today, that's actually responsible for the majority of my wealth.
Dave, thanks for joining the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, love to hear more about you and your businesses. Why don't you tell me about what you do? I know you've got a lot of different businesses going on from past and future ventures. So, I'd love to hear more about what you've got going on now, in the past, and in the future.
Sure. I've been self-employed since 2007, October 2007, actually. I'm primarily real estate. 80% of what I do is real estate. If I was to go through like what I'm into at the moment, I flip houses. I'm a landlord. I offer short-term, medium-term housing, travel nurse housing. I'll do construction for others. I have a car dealership in Bristol, Automotive Plus. I own 50% of a pawn shop in South Carolina. I have a marijuana grow operation in Woodstock, Canada, which is a little bit west of Toronto. I actually just got back from there. And I'm into assisted living a little bit, but I don't have an operational facility going, working on that. But I think that covers most of mine. And I have quite a few, not all successes in my past, so I have a pretty diverse experience of entrepreneurial ventures.
You got a lot going on. Wow. I did not know about the assisted living part.
That one's been tough. That's one of the tougher ones. The barrier to entry is very high.
I heard that for assisted living and anything medical related like that, you need a lot of processes and procedures, right?
Yes, absolutely. So processes and procedures are one of my weaknesses. I'm not good at it. I never have been. And a lot of people make a mistake and they think that they have to get good at it. If I want to ever do assisted living, I have to be good at this so that I can teach others and I can make my business run. But it's not true. It's actually the opposite of what you should do. You should accept that you suck at it. So I've accepted that I suck at this. And I know then that I will never attempt it. And I always will have to hire someone who's great at it and put them in place.
That's great. Sounds like a partnership opportunity coming up for you.
So it can be. Yeah. Partnerships are, everyone has different opinions. Some people avoid them like the plague. And some people are like, hey man, I like you. You seem nice. Let's be partners on something. And they just jump into partnerships. And so I'm on the lower end of that. Only get a partner if you need a partner. Because sometimes you need them. And I have several, depending what it was. But if you can hire someone, hire them.
Way better.
Yeah, better.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it works a lot better for startups. Sometimes that's sweat equity and getting things started. I'm of the opinion that partners are for dancing more than that. But, everybody has their own opinion. If each of you are indispensable to each other, I think that's what makes a true partnership work well. If you can't do the business without that other person, just like you can't do it without processes and procedures. They can't do it without what you bring to the table. That's a perfect partnership.
And what happens if you can hire it? Right? So if I'm doing a real estate deal and I found the deal and I know how to manage it, but I don't have the money, do I need a partner or do I need a lender? I need a lender, right?
That's true.
But sometimes, what if nobody will lend to me? What if I have no experience or the deal is not awesome and someone is like, well, hey man, I'll partner with you on it. Well, now you're going to get a partner because that's all that's available to you. And things like this happen all the time.
It's interesting. I run into that too. I have a few rental properties myself, and people will say, hey, I want to partner with you, but I really just want a lender. I don't want a partner. But all they have is the money, and they want to get a lot of information from your experience, and they want to learn from you because it's their first one. So it's interesting. It's almost like, okay, maybe we can, instead of calling it a partnership, we call it, you can watch me as I do this so that we don't mess things up with having too many chefs in the kitchen, because often I've seen that happen as well. Too many chefs in the kitchen and you start having problems.
So if there's any new real estate investors listening, I can explain exactly how this works because it's the same everywhere you look.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So when you're new and you're like, I don't have the money and let me find my first deal, and you find a deal because you've watched YouTube, you've gone to CTRIA, you have friends, you've educated yourself, read some books. Hopefully you didn't watch HGTV because that one's all fake, but you're ready to do a deal and you're brave enough to do a deal. And so you find a guy with the money and you say, hey, can I borrow the money to do this deal? And, common private money rates are anywhere, 8%, 10%, 12%, 15%, right? And some of those are fairly hefty returns percentage-wise. But it's really hard to find someone to lend you that money because they have to not only do it for the return, they have to believe in your confidence and your ability to succeed. And you have no track record. You can't say, look at these past 5 deals I did, because you don't have that. But if they believe in the deal, a person with money is likely going to be able to look at the house and say, hey, this guy really found something. The numbers make sense to me. I looked over at his scope of repair and his rough estimates and it sounds good. And they'll say, hey, I'll partner with you. So the new investor is paying way more than 8, 10, 12, 15%. They're going to pay a whole lot more than that. But it's still a good deal for them because it gets them their first deal. And that's how you build your track record. So the goal for the new investor should be to do that once or twice or 3 times or 4 times, whatever you need, and then get to the point where you can break away from that and then attract private money at 8, 10, 12, 15%, whatever it is, and borrow that money and stop partnering with the person who's taking so much more of your profit. That's a beginner's strategy.
That's great. Is that how you got started?
So no, not exactly. I got started because I started 18 years ago in a different world when I would just go to the bank, sign my name, and sometimes they gave me a check at closing. So I went in with no money, and this is 2006 and 2007, right before the crash. And I was one of those guys that I didn't know any better. I was just signing my name. And so I didn't need any money from anyone. The bank gave it all to me.
How did that work out during the crash?
I got foreclosed on. I had 2 short sales. My credit was shot for like 4 years.
Wow.
But I learned how to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would call 2006, 2007 the worst time to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I disagree. And the reason is I learned how to do the business correctly during the peak time. And then, so as the market crashed, I was able to continue doing it. And I was growing and I had my education and I was very hungry, very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought all the way down and then I bought all the way up. And if you remember, like when you have a crash, you don't know when the bottom is until it's past. You can only look back, right? And so I was buying through the bottom, and now that I've ridden that wave all the way up to where the market is today, that's actually responsible for the majority of my wealth.
That's great. There is light at the end of the tunnel after having that type of thing happen during the depression.
The lesson from that is if you are an investor and you buy some stuff now, and you're doing the best you can, and if the market crashes, and people disagree, but I believe it will, and if you end up in bad shape, if you get fucked, don't give up, because now you'll never lose the knowledge you've earned. You have experience now. You know how to do it better next time. And if you just adjust to the market, and in real estate, what really makes you wealth is usually time. You can't buy something on Monday and sell it on Friday and get rich in real estate. There's no good methods for that. But real estate is a good get rich slow strategy.
Get rich slow. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So what motivated you initially to start a business? Did you ever have a job at all?
I did. Oh yeah. I worked. I came from a very traditional family. Go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and then get a better job. And that was what my parents taught me. They weren't entrepreneurial. But when I was little, I was reselling gum in school, and I was buy, sell, trade like baseball cards, comic books, and magic cards. And I was always entrepreneurial, but I didn't know it because nobody told her. No guidance counselor, no teacher, nobody tells you anything. How do you know? These days, it seems like so obvious. Like everyone who starts a lemonade stand, they're like, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur. You should work for yourself." And the kid's like 6, and I'm like, "Where were you, 40 years ago when I was 5?"
Yeah, exactly.
So I've always been entrepreneurial, but I did go to school. I actually dropped out of college, and I did have jobs. I was a waiter, busboy and waiter for a while, and then I became like a computer guy, IT. My last job was Safeco Insurance in 2007 as a help desk technician.
Awesome.
And it was okay. I wasn't bad at it, but I was never great at it. And I didn't know enough to know that I was doing the wrong thing. I wasn't meant to do that. Recognizing personality types is so important, especially in kids.
It really is. It's ironic. Jimmy, our IT help desk, is right behind you there. So we'll have to make sure he listens to this.
Yeah, if it's he has some side of us for him, but don't tell him if you don't want to lose him. You might get a few more years out of him, even if he's meant to be an entrepreneur.
I always tell all of my guys, especially for small 1 to 3 families houses, just buy a multifamily and at least try to live.
Yeah, that's how I started. I bought a 3-family, lived for free. That was exactly how I started.
Exactly. And some of them have actually, they're starting to get their gears turning to start to do it. One of our guys, Chris, actually did it. And it's great. It takes a lot of the heat off when, situations like today where there's rapid inflation, you don't necessarily have to make that rent payment every single month. It's mostly covered, or at least 80% covered these days with all the high interest rates and purchase prices on the housing market. They're just wildly inflated. So
yeah, people watching, people paying attention today, they have fear related to our economy and our future. It's not certain, it's not stable. We have less trust for our government's ability to make good economic decisions than we've ever had in history.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can switch gears a little bit. Let's look at, how do you manage operational challenges across all of these various companies? How do you approach your processes that we've already found that might be a weak point, but how do you approach the operational day-to-day activities?
All right, so someone has to run every business, and I try to make it me as little as possible. I've learned that to be perfectly candid, I'm just not that good at a lot of stuff. But I've been able to tell what my strengths are, and I try to do those as often as possible. And then it looks like I'm like really smart and really successful. And I rehab houses, and I put on roofs, and I put in furnaces. But if you asked me, David, here's a screwdriver and a hammer, can you put together this IKEA furniture? It would take me a long time because I'm not good at it. When I say I put a roof on a house, what does that really mean? It means I called somebody and I wrote a check.
Yep.
Right. And so, I rehab houses, and I just, I don't know if everyone understands that the more that you delegate, the more that you hire out, the more that you can accomplish. So when I say I do a lot of things, it's really me doing it through a cell phone. At least, right? So someone has to be in charge of all these things. So someone manages all of these things. And I do have some management role. Like my short-term rentals, I'm active in it. They're not passive. Flipping houses, I have some activity in it. I'm not, sleeping in and, I vacation all the time and just,
You're not on the beach in Costa Rica collecting checks like all the gurus are selling?
Those guys, I'm like, I get why they market that way, but at the same time, I'm guessing that there's a little dishonesty in that, or a little, it's a little exaggerated how much time you get to spend on the beach when you're trying to run a real estate business and an education company and all of that. It's a good life. I'm not knocking it, but to put the highlights like that, like, hey, sign up with me and you can be on the beach 364 and a half days per year like I am. It's just not that honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you faced any unique security challenges in any of your various businesses?
Security, like as far as
cars getting stolen off the lot,
Oh, yes.
Like you said, on your rental property, you have a security system. So what type of issues have you run into, and how has security helped you?
I've had lots of issues that I have not solved. I don't be worrying about those, or that were difficult to solve. For one example, I had this place in Terryville, and there was this homeless guy sitting on a mattress at the back. And I'm like, all right, well, we don't want that. So I don't know where the mattress came from. We take it, we throw it away. He brings another one. And we call the police, and we're like, can you do a directed patrol, which is when they stop by once in a while. Like, such a headache to solve. And I don't know how security would have saved that. I can tell you where I use security well, though.
I can help you with that, by the way.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So commonly in the South and in Vegas, if you go to the end of the Las Vegas Strip, they have music blaring, and it's always in the bad neighborhoods outside of the Walgreens and the CVS at the bottom of the strip.
So they can't sleep.
They can't sleep, and they do not. It's very quickly solve the problem over there. And that's what a lot of people will do. Now,
Wow.
You don't want that at your property because you're keeping people up, right?
Yeah.
But you can have a light that flashes automatically on the camera. It uses AI. It knows the difference between people and cars. As soon as it detects a person in the backyard, it can play an alarm sound for 30 seconds. That'll just keep flashing the light. Keep the light on, blaring on and off, on and off. And that could deter them.
So at the car dealership, we could use that. So car dealerships get vandalized semi-regularly. It's like a tax. Connecticut is a pro-crime state. They make policies and laws and encourage more crime. So like if you were to steal a catalytic converter, instead of putting you in jail or saying this is your first time, you get probation, second time in jail. Instead of that, it's almost like they give them like a lollipop and a bus pass and Section 8 and say, I hope you're okay, and nobody gets in any trouble for it ever. So, I've lost in the last 4 years, I don't know, maybe 12 catalytic converters. It's just so common.
That's expensive.
It is. And then we've had vandalism. Never caught them. At least one of them. I mean, I know that it's targeted, but I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was me or if it was somebody we towed, because sometimes the police will tell you to tow a car and people get really mad and they don't know who to take it out on.
Yeah.
And so I'll, never caught them. I'll never know. It's a taxi doing business. But that kind of deterrent, I kind of wish I had that. It might have scared them away.
Yeah. Very popular item for car dealers. Maybe not so much the smaller car dealers, but for the national brands, the big, Land Rover, the local Hoffman dealerships around here, Hoffman Auto Group. We've done a couple installations for a couple different ones around the state where they do live monitoring. And they have live security guards watching the cameras throughout the lot, and they will proactively call the police.
At like some kind of central...
at a central monitoring station. Yeah.
Okay. That's really helpful. They see someone walking around late at night, they could probably yell at them over a speaker or something.
Yep. Proactive talk down. They'll yell at them over a speaker, and then they call the police if they don't leave. But it gets pricey. You're talking, minimum entry point on that is probably roughly $600 to $900 a month. Most small car dealerships, you'd rather pay for the catalytic converters. But you can do it for free, theoretically, with a proactive camera that just flashes a white light and plays an alarm sound, and then it notifies you proactively. So now, a little bit of both. If you're up and you get the notification, you could self-monitor, but at least it's something proactive, a little bit more than just them seeing a camera and knowing nobody's watching it. A little bit more of a deterrent.
Yeah. No, I mean, deterring people, all you can do with crime in Connecticut is try to get them to go down the street to somebody else. That's the best you can do.
The police have even told us, we work with the police all the time, and they say our hands are tied behind our back because we can't chase people. Wow. All of the kids, like all the towns in Connecticut, are having problems with kids stealing from cars. Happens in Berlin, happens in Hartford, happens everywhere. And the police say we can't chase them. And even when we do catch them, because they do, it's like catch and release. They don't get any jail time.
Yeah.
It's youthful offender, which is fair. You do that once, but they say they just do multiple offenders continuing to get a pass.
Yeah.
And that's
we're so sorry, sir, that you got caught stealing from cars. Here's a lollipop, a free bus pass, and Section 8. Here you go.
And then they're just
it's terrible. It is the complete opposite of what we should be doing.
So who would you say is doing a good job at that? Have you heard of any states that are doing it the right way, or is everybody kind of a different level of bad?
So it tends to be a left versus right issue, so without bringing politics into it, the state that does most things right is Florida. Florida, and not that they don't have their share of crime. It seems like every completely insane story about someone doing something way off the charts starts with a man in Florida, right? But Florida's a
alligator man I've heard of, yeah.
Well, Florida's a big state. Florida does most things right. They have things like their housing laws and their laws are substantially better than ours.
So what are some of the key lessons that you've learned from a few of your businesses that you've had? What's probably the car dealership and real estate, right? Those are probably the two that stand out.
I mean, you pick a business, I can tell you the lessons from it. I've probably learned as much from the ones that didn't make it. I used to own the only Firehouse Subs franchise restaurant in Connecticut.
Yeah, I heard about that. You got somebody stole from you, right?
Yeah,
it was an employee internal theft partner.
Yeah.
Wow.
The operating partner.
What happened there?
So my friend, the innocent friend, Paul, he's my landscaper. And he calls me one day. We've been friends for a long time. And he's all excited. And he's like, hey, Dave, Firehouse Subs in Bristol? Like it went out of business a while ago. And but I think we could buy it and we could reopen it. You wanna buy like Firehouse Subs with me? And I'm like, no. And I didn't elaborate or anything. And he was like, I think he was kind of deflated. He's like, oh, well, and I'm just not interested in the restaurant business. It's a terrible business. I just want to be on the other side of the bar. I just want to be a consumer. That's it. I enjoy my restaurants and bars. I'm glad they're there. But people who own and operate them, I wish them all the luck, and they've chosen a difficult path with a high risk outcome. So I say no. And he says, all right, well, can me and my friend
it ended up being the third partner that was stealing.
Mm-hmm.
Can we come and talk to you because you're a smart business guy and we just want some advice? And so they come to me, and it turned out they really did find something. That the prior owner who put together the Firehouse Subs went out of business. It was $390,000, if I remember right, to renovate and bring in all the equipment and like be open.
Mm-hmm.
And so Firehouse Subs had taken it, foreclosed on it, so to speak. And the franchise model is always, they just want the place open, they just want their royalties. That's how franchise work.
Mm-hmm.
And the third partner was able to negotiate a purchase price of $60,000. So for 60 grand, I would have gotten exactly what they had for 390. Plus there's also some recognition already because they've been open in the past.
Definitely.
And so I joined them and I did it. And so I put up all 60.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a minority ownership stake, and I had the profit share was on, the way it was structured was the money I gave them was a loan. So the business paid the loan, and then whatever the company made, I was a minority percentage of the profits. And it was a good structure. I'm not unhappy with the structure, but we didn't watch close. It's an example of me not watching close enough, and I have been guilty of that in the past. When we talked to the bank afterwards, we asked about cash deposits and realized he almost never made any cash deposits. And then he had taken, he wasn't paying sales tax. And I don't understand why the guy was so dishonest. He used to be stealing sales tax for 18 months, which is the length of time we were open. So that means that every month when I saw him and every time I stopped in for a sandwich, he was lying to me from the beginning. And that made it very, very blatant, almost like malicious.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And for those listening that aren't familiar, like if you ever get in trouble in business, sales tax, Connecticut state sales tax, it is the easiest money to steal and it is the worst money to steal. All you have to do is not send it into the state. It takes a while for the state to figure it out, but the state will come after you relentlessly. You can go to jail for that.
Mm-hmm. Interest and fees too.
It is. Oh yeah, on top of the penalties, and it is not your money. You are collecting the money for the state. You're supposed to give it to the state. And if you steal from the state of Connecticut, they take offense to that. And so that's still coming. So one thing I did smartly when I structured my deal, by having a minority stake and not having management control, I negotiated myself out of personally guaranteeing the lease, personally guaranteeing the contract with Firehouse Subs, and thus being responsible for the sales tax. So I have no exposure. And I did that only because I'm very afraid to personally guarantee things these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I borrowed money from you, I'll sign a personal guarantee because I have every intention of paying it back. But if I'm borrowing money for some huge project, it sounds great, but oh my God, what if it doesn't work out? Well, then I'll personally guarantee that.
Yeah, something that you're not in direct control of.
Yes.
It's not your wheelhouse.
Yeah, so imagine if some other guy steals and I'm responsible for all of that. That's not something that I want to get into.
It's great. Sounds like you made a good choice on that one.
Yeah, it could have been worse, right? It's a loss, but it could have been worse. Also, I was the lien holder on all the equipment. So when we went out of business, I sent a crew over and I took all of the equipment out and I, resold it little by little. Recovered since then. Yeah, it was still a loss.
So you still lost off of your initial investment.
I did. Yeah, I was all in for about 70 and I recovered maybe 30.
But
And I learned.
invaluable experience though.
Yeah. No, I learned a lot. I was right about restaurants. I actually had someone else reach out and they asked me to invest in the restaurant industry. It's a food truck. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in any capacity at all. It's not, I like the guy. He's a hard worker, but I just have no interest at all.
You'd be the landlord with the triple net lease, but that's about it, right?
I would consider being the real estate.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And I see it all the time in West Hartford Center. Restaurants are like a revolving door there because the rents kept going up and they just can't afford it. And the people who really win are the real estate owners, not the restaurants.
Yeah, well, you know what? And I don't even know if that's all the way the case, right? So restaurants face it from like all sides almost, right? On top of increased rents, which the landlords are forced to increase taxes and increase insurance. Insurance rates are up like, I don't know, since I started in real estate, hundreds of %.
Yeah.
Hundreds. It is not okay. Like insurance companies are terrible these days. But the food costs, the inflation hits restaurants much harder, right? So restaurants they have to pay the increases in inflation in real time. Like when they go for eggs on Monday, if eggs are more on Friday, they have to pay more on Friday. If they're more the next Monday, they have to pay more. But they are always, they're hesitant to raise their prices on their customer
they're almost afraid, but they have to. So like some restaurants, if they hold their prices, they slide from the black to the red quickly, and some of them aren't even paying attention when they do this. And by the time they figure it out, it's late in the game. Restaurants just have to keep raising prices, and they're afraid to alienate their customers. But I think all restaurants have figured out that they all have to do it, at least by now. And then also, the West Hartford has a pretty strong nightlife. Do you remember in the old days when you and I used to go out on a Friday and Saturday night, and we could go to a bar or a restaurant till 1:30 in the morning?
I have fond memories of that back on day.
I do too.
In West Hartford too.
Yeah, so I don't think you can do that anymore. I mean, there might be a couple of clubs somewhere, but like places are closed at like 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there used to be a club, I forget the name, but it was just outside of the strip, and the cops would always raid his club because they did not want that look in West Hartford. I remember the last party I was there, and he started shooting off fireworks into the sky, and all the cops were just pissed because they couldn't do anything about it. It was just a bunch
His last one.
It was his last one because the cops kept coming after him. He said, "You know what? I'm done." And but yeah, it was a great time, but they just hassle it. I think part of that is because West Hartford is very protective over what they want happening in West Hartford. They don't want that scene. They don't want the craziness happening with people drunk driving and all of that. Granted, I'm sure enough people go to West Hartford Center and they probably had too many without going to the club, but I think it's a certain look that they're trying to go for in West Hartford, and unfortunately it's, that's changed over the years.
I agree. West Hartford is a double-edged sword. It's really not my favorite place to go. And part of it is the police there have been very strict. It's been I haven't really hung out late there in years, but in previous years, the police are very strict. It's like a culture among the police and politicians to kind of harass any bad behavior. But at the same time, if you want to encourage a walkable downtown with really nice restaurants comes with nightlife and bar life.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want that for West Hartford, if you want to harass your customers that spend money in your community, you're diminishing that. West Hartford is never first on my list.
Mm-hmm.
If someone else is like, "Hey, let's go to West Hartford," I'm like, okay, but it's never where I choose, because I don't want to deal with that or take that risk. I'm going to go to Sunnyton or Plainville, or there's plenty of other places to go. West Hartford is super cool, but if you run the risk, and also parking is very tough. It's just not my top choice.
So what type of lessons would you have from the real estate industry?
Oh, the best thing I could teach people today, which is the hardest thing for people to hear, especially the young ones, is patience. This is not a normal real estate market. It will not always be like this. People I talk to sometimes, they say the real estate market prices are just going to go up. November 18th, there's a new loan program where if you are a owner-occupied buyer for a 2, 3, 4 unit residential, you have to owner-occupy it for at least a year. I think it's a year. You can go in for 5% down. It used to be 20. It used to be more. I think it was 25% down. And it's an amazing program to let people get into multifamily investing. Right? And so that should spike prices, right? There's a huge shortage of inventory. That's just spike prices, right? The Fed just announced that they plan to reduce interest rates 2.75% throughout 2024. I guess the guy has been fairly truthful, and that's the plan. That's what we want to do. If they're anticipating lowering interest rates, so I'm inclined to believe that they probably will lower interest rates somehow. I'm surprised in that. I didn't think they can, because doesn't inflation come right back? But all of those things make prices go up, right? And so I've had people tell me "Hey, prices are going to go up. Prices are going to go up," and I'm like, they can't go up forever. And when I explain it, the way I explain it is, history is 100% undefeated for market cycling and real estate going up and real estate going down, traditionally on 18-year cycles, give or take, and we have a very long cycle this time. But I refuse to believe that this is the first time in history that the market doesn't cycle and real estate goes up forever. It didn't sound silly when I say it like that, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a silly thing to believe.
What's interesting is they're lowering interest rates just in time for the election cycle.
Oh, well, they announced it. And they did cut like a half a point or something. Right? Yeah, I heard, yeah.
But I mean, for the next election cycle isn't next in 2 years.
Oh, 2034.
Yeah, we're going to have a presidential election, and it's going.
I mean, those kind of political games have been since for many, many decades. There's no way that. I mean, most people know what that is. People that think that the interest rates going down is just coincidence, or it's because our current leaders are doing a good job. I mean, I've looked at it, but they don't get it.
I don't pay attention to any of that. Just keep doing my own thing and form my own conclusions. That's how it is. Yeah. So, do you use a property manager for your real estate?
No, I don't. So
Manage it yourself?
yeah, manage it in-house. And so the reason for that, I was managing myself, and property management is miserable. It is a soul-sucking exercise in entrepreneurship. Many of us do it. And so I started hiring a property manager to manage the ones that were farther out from Bristol. And so like I had one in Torrington. I hired a property manager, a friend of mine. And so he's doing the property management there. And so one time I had a bathtub valve go. And on the same day I had a bathtub valve go in Bristol. Same failure. So I sent my normal guy to Bristol, and the parts were $100 and it was $75. He charged me $175, and it was it's like 6 hours.
Yeah. Not the post-COVID price.
Yeah, no, that same job today is like, materials and labor are up more than 100%. I don't know what kind of inflation they're trying to tell people, but it's so extreme, way more than they say. In Torrington, the exact same job and the exact same day, my property management company just hire someone with a high level of service. I don't even know why they send a 2-man crew. They would send a 2-man crew to every job, and it was $525. And so
It's a New York person.
yeah. And so I'm like, well, if I hire a property manager and all they do is send over a high-priced guy to make a repair, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I fired her. And so now I manage forever. So I have a single family in a house in New York that I've never been to. There's no property manager. It's me. If there's something that I talk about, it's me. So I manage a house in New York that I've never seen. It makes sense to do it yourself mostly. People will be like, oh, I don't want to deal with the tenants. I don't want to deal with the tenants. I mean, definitely there is something to that. But it's property management probably makes more than the landlord hire, especially if you're buying right now. The property manager will make more than you as the owner. And the property manager doesn't make that much. It's not that great business.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 10% of rent. And then when they release an apartment, I think they get 1 month rent.
Traditionally, it could be like a half month or 1 month. But yeah, traditionally, yes.
Traditionally, it's somewhere around there. And it's like, man, that's a lot of money to give away in management.
It's a ton of money to give away.
Yeah.
But it's also not a lot of money for the property management company. Property
It
management
is a lot of work. In fairness.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. Property management makes more than money on repairs, marking up repairs. If you have something you need done that costs them $50 and they charge $100 for it, property management makes that on top of it.
Yeah.
That's what
So it's a volume game.
and it is like a volume.
Yeah. Yeah. And just taking that small percentage off of everyone and be it that way.
Yeah.
So are there any skills or insights you gained from one business that helped with another?
Skills that I gained from what? I mean, I would say negotiation for sure, and delegation. Nobody starts out being a delegator. That's something that you have to train and learn. Hopefully you have some inherent delegation skills in you.
Every layer of abstraction that I've added below myself has always helped grow the company or help out with management, make it run smoother, etc. So I'm a firm believer in that side.
Yep. The very first person I recommend somebody hire. So for entrepreneurs out there, right? Entrepreneurs that are listening, you're probably at the point where you're working more than 40 hours a week, because we all do it. I'd be shocked if there's entrepreneurs out there that are not, especially when they're early in their journey, right? And so who do you need to hire? And the answer is you need a house cleaner. And you're going to be like, I don't need a house cleaner. But you do, to not clean your house, and you can spend those hours and get them back in your life. And the second person you need to hire is a landscaper. So hire the landscaper so you stop mowing your own lawn if you're doing that. If you change your own oil, stop doing that. Hire out these things to regain hours in your life. And then once you're actually in your business, the first person to hire out, unless you're really good at it and this is what you like to do, is your bookkeeper. Hire out your bookkeeper. You do not need an employee. There are people that will do your bookkeeping. You can hire for 2 hours a week as bookkeeping services. Unless you're good at it, it's the best person to hire really early on. I'm sure there's, depending on what you do, maybe you need laborers and this and that, but that kind of mentality will get you your hours back and allow you to work 50 hours in your business. And it's okay, because you're not mowing the lawn, you're not cleaning your house, you're not doing the bookkeeping. focus on things you're better at, that make more money, that help you go faster.
So I think a lot of that is going to require somebody to actually calculate how much their time is worth, right?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes at least when I first got started, I started from zero with this, and it was so hard to figure out when I needed to make that switch over. So how did you make that determination in your journey?
So I actually teach this. I teach classes at one of my Airbnbs called Serenity Woods, and I teach about 10 classes a year. And there is determining your worth is in one of the classes, and it's something that every entrepreneur should do, and it's a changing number, right? So if you have a W-2 job and you work for $20 an hour, you're worth $20 an hour, and you can argue you're worth more, but you're not, because you accept that from your employer, right? So if I said, hey, how much, if I was to hire you for an hour, how much am I wanting to hire you for an hour? What's your number?
It could be hundreds, maybe 1,000, because it takes away a lot of opportunity cost from other.
All right, so say it's 1,000. Say it's 1,000, right? So if it was 1,000, which is a pretty lofty number, right?
Mhm.
But if you set that as your value, then anything that's below 1,000, you can leave a little bit. Anything that's below $900 an hour, you should be hiring out to others. At $900 an hour, that is everything in your entire life, right? Because I mean, who makes more, high-end doctors, high-end lawyers? What are they, like $250 to $500, an hour? So that's a very lofty number, right? But I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So if you set a number, let's say you're early in your entrepreneurial journey, and you set your number at $40 an hour. Should you be mowing your lawn? Should you be cleaning your house? Should you be running errands that you can farm out? Can you get a kid or someone who's an admin? And you can go pretty far with this. Do they run to the post office for you? Do they put gas in their car? Run to the car wash? Do they, take it for an oil change? If you remove all of these tasks out of your life that are less than $40, worth less than $40 per hour, you will have so much more time. So you have to set your value. So if I was to set my value, let's say I set my value at $300 an hour. There's definitely some miss in there. Do I do activities that are worth less than $300 an hour? Like every day, right? But if you have that mentality, it gets better and better, and it usually doesn't go backwards. And so I don't do a lot of my own stuff. I never haul materials anymore. I used to haul materials and go shopping at Home Depot. I don't do any of that anymore. There's lots of errands that I don't run. I don't collect rent. I used to collect rent in person when I started. So I had 30 units. That's rough. I don't do any of that. I don't call my tenants and ask for the rent either. I have someone to do that. I don't go over the leases with them in the office. My office staff does that. There's lots of things that you start delegating out, or it allows you to move on to bigger, better things. And if you're looking at opportunity also, can I make $40 an hour? Can I make $400 an hour? Can I make $1,000 an hour with this? And if you, depending how strict you want to be, you might say no. Hey, I can only make $500 an hour doing this thing. I'm worth $1,000 an hour. I'm going to say no to this opportunity because it's not worth my time, the bang versus the buck. And so if I was to say that to you, you might be like, well, you know what? Let me reverse a little bit. $500 is pretty good, but it's you can be as strict as you choose.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I would imagine first you're figuring out how to hire things out, right? The next step is executive assistant, right? Where does that cutoff happen now? I'd be interested to see you teach that one.
Yeah, so the admin is tough, right? Usually you start out with part-time, and it is admins are looked at as a drain monetarily, but they allow you to do more. You need them. My auto staff is invaluable to me. I couldn't go through this without them. You're going to need office staff, and a lot of people are going to virtual assistants, and it's kind of like business by business. Some businesses work really well with virtual assistants, and some don't. I don't have one, and I've never had one, but I would like to start using them. But I haven't. I'm working on the business that I will need them for, which is short-term rental management for others.
Yeah.
So that's a very good one for virtual assistants. Well, like at the car dealership or at flipping a house, and there's no real need for a virtual assistant for me. I'm sure I can use them a little bit, but it just hasn't been worth it. It hasn't been worth the effort to learn how to do it.
Yeah, a lot of times the juice isn't worth the squeeze because you'll spend more time trying to train somebody going through a language barrier, etc. Yeah, we've had some success using some, virtual assistants, keeping it off-site, not on-site. And it's been helpful, depending on what the task is, but it's possible, but you have to have a lot of repeatable tasks that are just the same. And that's where it comes in. If you've got to have them with critical thinking or anything like that, making decisions, we've been reached out to from property management companies. And you can tell it's somebody from overseas, and it just sounds like a scam, but it really wasn't. But it's kind of like, we gave them a quote, but you could tell that they were just, they didn't have any information. It definitely wasn't the decision maker. So we kind of half-assed it, because we could see there was not much effort put in on their end. They had a virtual assistant call us and say, how much are 3 cameras on this house or 4 cameras over here?
And you didn't take them that seriously.
Didn't take them that seriously.
It's like the old days that, you remember in the old days, one day Dell decided to outsource all of their customer service to India, right? In the old days, this is the 2000s. And so, people would make fun of it. It was very frustrating. It was the accents, the language barrier. And they would just say, reboot the computer. So one thing is, rebooting the computer actually fixed things like 60% of the time. It is actually the right answer for most problems they're having. But people hated it. And it created a severe, it was a deterrent compared to other competitors that had American-based support. And so the virtual assistants that are overseas, you do have to be careful what you use them for. Calling companies that you want to do things for you is probably not something you want to do.
What I'd like to know is, what are some new ventures or projects you're currently working on? How might we be able to help you out with that? Maybe we can get the word out that you're looking for help on it or something like that.
Sure. So I have 2. One of them is short-term rental management for others, right? So if you recall, I know what I'm not good at, right? And so my short-term rentals, and I have 9 of them. I actually have a 10th by accident right now. Managing for others there's a huge need for that. People have a really hard time determining where to buy one, what should it look like, how do I determine where I'm going to make the analysis of it. And short-term rentals are the fastest growing area in all of real estate. And it's because it's more profitable, and because there is very, very almost no chance of dealing with the trouble that comes with long-term renters when we've all figured out that the government does not respect property rights through the eviction moratorium. And we're tired of evicting people. Evictions are so hard and so expensive.
I've heard into all too.
Right, all of it. So I am not quite ready to say, hey, I'm looking for lots of people that need their short-term rentals managed. But if there were a few people out there that were willing to work with me and be a little bit on the guinea pig side, I promise I won't let them down. I would take on like 5 clients. And then the other one is marijuana. So the marijuana grow operation in Canada is moving along. And I just got back from there and I saw it for the first time. It's more marijuana than I've ever seen in my life. I was there with like hundreds of pounds of weed. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, when I was a kid, I would have gone to jail forever for this. And now I can just
Walk in the room, right?
And now I get paid for it. And so the Canadian company is coming to America, and they have a superior model. Marijuana companies are going out of business every day. They're going in and out. It's like the Wild West. And I believe that I've found one that has a superior method, superior processes, and structure. And I'm going to bring that to Michigan first. And so that is something that we'll be looking to raise investment dollars. And the returns are high. It's like a franchise model, but it's not a franchise model where you work 80 hours a week and you make like 80 grand a year and like all the little shops and stuff. This one is completely passive, which is hard to find these days. With money that's completely passive is difficult. But basically you own the marijuana, and the company charges you for all of the things that go along with it, maturity for construction and rent and utilities and security and royalties on sales and things like that. And so we get paid all those, like the marijuana is yours and the plus left is yours. And the prices of the returns are very high. So if you're interested in investing in the marijuana industry and hearing more about it, at this time I'm just creating a list of people who are definitely interested. So that when I have something to offer, I know the business sector.
It's a great opportunity. Yeah. And how does the laws differ from the United States to Canada right now?
So all 50 states are all different laws too. And Canada is, think of it as one more state. To give you an example of something like so silly, right? So in Connecticut, transporting marijuana requires like a professional like security service, right? There's lots of checks and balances and like high amount of regulations, but the driver can't be armed. That's all about it. You can't protect yourself, but you could. But otherwise, it's locked here, right? Very expensive. It's gonna be an expense for all marijuana. Right? In Canada, you can throw the marijuana in the back of your car, drive it over, and drop it off in a bus bay.
Wow.
There's no rules about it. Canada has plenty of rules about marijuana, but transportation is not one of them. That's what it said.
Wow.
Another thing is crazy. Just to give you the idea of the difference between states. So Connecticut and Michigan are both very blue states. They have completely different strategies of marijuana. So in Connecticut, their legislation was made by medical marijuana growers. So they must have a strong lobby, and they pay the politicians to make their way. So it's extremely difficult to get your licenses and social equity stuff, the lotteries, very difficult. And to grow in Connecticut, the fee to start is $3 million. Yeah. So the grow operation here, there's $3 billion to go. So the same license in Michigan to grow is $5,000. So if you're an investor and you don't care where you are, why would you pay $3 million when you pay $5,000 for essentially the same thing, right? And there is an answer to that, and so there's price compression. So in Michigan, everyone grows marijuana. There's saturation. You have to be able to grow very efficiently and sell at a very low wholesale price, which you'd have cheap. But that's why lots of people are going out of business, because when everyone grows weed, for $5,000, I could be competing with the neighbor in his garage, and he has no overhead, no place. He can sell like the same way as I can. You can't actually go in the garage, but you know what I'm saying. And so understanding this now, I'm glad I didn't get in earlier, because if I got into this earlier, marijuana developers probably would have lost my shirt. But I feel pretty good about this, and I'm looking forward to sharing it more details than I am.
That's great. Yeah. I heard there was a lot of interesting things going on with the Connecticut licenses.
Oh, absolutely. It's
some backroom stuff. I've heard everything from, some people got the social equity licenses, but they have no money to put into it. So now the large companies basically backed random people that they found that would actually qualify for the license, and they have to be a certain percentage ownership.
more than 50%.
Yeah, more than 50%. So these people are really just a figurehead, but these large companies are backing them. And that's how they got these licenses. And they had people that submitted a bunch of applications. There was some nuance in how you can apply. I've heard a bunch of different things, but it's very interesting how it worked out.
It's so thorough.
Yeah.
So I got to meet the guy who designed these social equity fees.
Oh,
And he designed it for himself. And then he got his daughter a license. But then he was struggling to pay the $3 billion. So I don't know if he solved it by now. That was quite a few months ago that I met him to raise money. But he's like, yeah, it's super rough. He designed it and then he got it for himself.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how he was actually enough to do that. He seemed like a nice enough guy. People that are in the marijuana business may recognize what I'm talking about. They know how it is.
Yeah.
But these are the rules of the game that we're supposed to play. There's not much you can do with it. And I don't know that it's not corruption in Michigan, I'm sure it is, but in Connecticut, if you said, David, marijuana is legal, can you design the worst possible way to distribute it and handle the licenses?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even have dreamed up ways this stupid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond my comprehension how it could be this polluted.
Wow. We did the security in our building here, and it's a buddy of mine as well. He owned one of 2 medical marijuana testing facilities in Connecticut. Now there's only one. He went out of business because he took the high road. So the DCP was not enforcing what he was telling them the other lab was doing. The other lab, the way you can actually test marijuana, you can take from different parts of the plant and it has a higher THC content. He was taking it to take an average, bottom, middle, top, for example, right? Yeah. This other company was taking it only from the high THC spot. You might know because you're in the industry.
And be semi-falsified.
Yeah, so then they were doing that. And then he said, even if you look at the percentage of THC versus other states, it's like wildly inflated here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen that as well. And he said there's no way that they're getting these numbers because he would test it at his lab. He would even take the same sample that they tested at their lab. They got wildly different results, and they would come to him for the real testing, but then they would go to them for the certificate to actually get the label.
That is an example of regulations.
Mono.
That needs to be have more regulation. Even if they've made the regulation, they have to enforce it. The company that's falsifying their results, I mean, warn them, tell them, hey, if you don't stop working on that shit, give me out. There was no law against it. I mean, of course, everyone's going to go to them to say, hey, my weed is the best, but people are smoking weed. It's kind of like craft beer. Like it's very much there's a lot of connoisseurs out there, and they know. I don't smoke weed myself. I haven't since college, but it's like craft beer. There's these people know, and the good brands, the good strains, words, right? These is talked about in forums. Oh, you gotta try this. Oh, you gotta try this. And the good companies, they will rise to the top. And especially if there's rumors of like falsified THC type reporting. And they just need to have better regulation on that. Because the average person may not know, but everyone is one of the strains out in Canada. It's called Ice Cream Wheeler. I have a picture of me standing with 52 pounds of drying under that. And it's super popular, really high THC. For real. And like the word spreads super fast. You can't even make enough.
So when you're in a room with 52 pounds, are you just breathing it in and you're getting high, or how does that work?
So the ventilation system's funny thing is I can install it, but it's not that. It's not actually super strong. It's not overwhelming.
Gotcha.
The way to grow prep is to have all these individual rooms with individual HVAC systems. Some of the companies that went out of business had huge warehouses and they grew. But if you have a problem, one, you can't control your temperature and air quality. Well. But then also, if you have like mites or something, one outbreak of mites, you lose your whole room instead of having them independently, lots of little rooms.
Oh, so that makes sense. We're actually quoting security for a grow operation, and they have like 15 different really long rooms, almost like hallways, and it's just compartmentalized.
That's the way to do it. So any company, anyone out there listening, going to invest in a marijuana operation, if they are not growing smaller rooms, if they're growing a huge warehouse, don't invest in them. They will a lot of it. They'll it's house away. And I learned this. There's like this mad scientist type guy in Canada, and it's how I learned all this. I didn't know it before. The rooms in Canada are roughly the size of a tractor trailer.
Go to the favorites. All right. I think you might have forgotten about this one.
I did.
Yep. Every podcast, I ask everybody for favorites.
Okay.
So the first one is, what's your favorite local coffee shop in Connecticut?
All right. So
I love coffee. I love matcha. So
I don't drink coffee at all, but the best one out there is my friend Eduardo Garza's Cafe Real.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. He has a real passion for it, and he gets it directly from Colombian farmers, East Colombia. There's no middleman in it, and he pays them more, so they get a premium. These poor people in Colombia, and he brings them up there. He's done a great thing with that.
Wow, that's awesome. And what's your favorite local restaurant? Probably not West Hartford.
So favorite restaurants. I like to stay kind of local. I don't travel too far. But I am a restaurant. I eat out the most of the time. Pint and Plate in Bristol and Doubletree in Bristol, two of my favorites. Doubletree is way underrated. It's a hotel one. Strange thing I think it's a lot of Connecticut. Like restaurants are always closed on Mondays, so it's very hard to find something open. And Doubletree Hotel always open. I tried out at Mohegan Sun. Bala is one of my favorites. I did try Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen was excellent, but it was really easy to spend $250. Very, very pricey. The Wellington is the way to go at Hell's Kitchen. I am a fan of Craft Kitchen in Southington. They opened up the Southington location recently. I was there a couple nights ago. Always a good time there. And then when I want to take someone out for like one of the nicer places that I take them out, and I know we're definitely gonna have a good time. There's like no chance for error. Byron Rondo.
He's a Cheshire.
Yeah, the top of my list. And then I also like Cabo. Cabo gets butchered in the online comments. But Cabo has staff has been super nice to me. It's very beautiful there. It's the best looking decorations in the state. They win awards for it. And it looks in Cabo.
I haven't been a big fan of the food at Cabo, but Veron Rondo, even on a Saturday night, they're book solid. Like you're elbow to elbow with people and they don't miss. It's perfect food. It is so good.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that. Multiple times I've gone, not just a one-off, so very impressed.
Kava always gets that rep. Like there's nothing wrong with their food, but the amount of decorations, they're just expecting a higher level, or a lot of people are. But there's nothing wrong. Like I've liked all the meals that I've gotten there. I enjoy what I've had, but I think people have a higher expectation because of how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much higher you can go. I mean, but I've always had a good time there, and beautiful rooftop. You see sunsets up there, and the decorations are amazing.
The rooftop is nice. I get it. Yeah, it's nice for sure. So what books have you read that have helped you along your journey that you would suggest to somebody?
So I don't read. It's a strange thing about me. It's not because I don't want to. I want to know what's in the book. I've got like some ADD, which I don't try to treat or anything like that. It makes me who I am. It's a really common entrepreneurial. I don't want to call it a defect. I think it just makes you who you are.
But all the Google people that work at Google in California, I've heard that if they didn't have ADHD, they would actually be at a disadvantage. They had unfair advantage for a lot of people.
I've never heard that, and that's crazy, but I get it. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is like the tried and true book that everyone in the whole country should read it. Robert Kiyosaki in his later years had it like sold out his name and stuff, but Rich Dad Poor Dad is a brilliant book, and it'll change the way you think about wealth and success. It's something that everyone should read. And then I have a coach, and he wrote a book called Life and Air, like Millionaire, but on life. My coach is Sean McCloskey. He's excellent. And Life and Air is probably the second book that I would recommend to others.
I too read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I felt like the veil was lifted over my eyes. So I highly suggest that one. Speaking of coach, is that like a business coach or just?
So people that are into coaching, or whether they are a coach or receiving coaching, when you're a life coach, you're looking for a life coach, it's a harder sell, because that means I have to say like, oh, something's wrong with me. I need a life coach. Something's wrong with my life. But if you're a business coach, it's a much easier sell. Coaching has become cooler and cooler by the day, right?
Yeah.
And a business coach will give you financial return. And so it was a little vague when I joined this coaching group, and it was presented as substantially a business coaching thing. I thought it was business coaching, maybe a little bit of assumption on my part. But when you get there, it's probably 60% life coaching and 40% business coaching. But that's really what I needed.
Interesting.
It is. I couldn't be more happy that I stumbled into this room and made the decision to join. And it is mostly life coaching.
Very, very. So they take a 10,000 foot view on things instead of only focusing on your business life.
Yeah,
your personal as well.
Every entrepreneur, when you get to the point where you can afford it, or it's stumbling blocks, like get a coach. And if your coach also, there's nothing wrong with having a coach for a year, and maybe you get all the value that you get out of them. Get another coach for another year, but having a coach and joining a mastermind are some of my regrets that I didn't do earlier in life, because I didn't know what they were. Coaches, I'm like, what a mastermind? What is that? I didn't know what that was. And I wish that I had earlier.
Got it. Do you have any real estate masterminds or coaching that you would recommend?
My favorite teacher is Robin Thompson. Robin Thompson is a house flipper. She comes to Connecticut, CT REIA, once a year. She is just one of the most authentic teachers who like shares the journey and conveys information in a meaningful way, and like doesn't hold back, and like tells you what you want to hear. And sometimes she might make you feel bad, but you deserved it, and like she is excellent. If you're interested in flipping houses or short-term rentals, I definitely recommend seeing Robin Thompson. You have to look up when she comes to CT REIA next, when she comes once a year every year.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to make sure we go. I'd love to see her again. I've seen her a couple years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
CT REIA?
Yeah, it's CT REIA. Yep. How do you recommend CT REIA for people getting started? I know there's a lot of different options in the space, but it seems like they're the largest in Connecticut, right?
So, yeah, not only are they the largest in Connecticut, they're the 5th largest REIA in the whole country. And you're like, how did Connecticut get something like that? And so I actually know the answer. Lots of states have multiple REIAs, and Connecticut has only one. So there is like a Fairfield REIA, and they were this owned by the same, and they actually just recently sold off. But to have one RIA in a state this size, that's why it's the biggest. So like Florida probably has like 80 RIAs, and that's why they're not, they don't have like biggest ones. Yeah. I absolutely recommend Cincy RIA. If you are new and want to learn more and try to figure out, it is a very newbie friendly room mixed with experienced people. Experienced people go there to make connections. When a new person finds a deal, like when we were earlier talking, they might not know what to do with it. They might need the money. We look for people like those who are like, hey, let's partner up, like that kind of thing. It's a great place to learn. They have good quality speakers. And the owner, Ron, he's a friend of mine. He's very knowledgeable, shares his knowledge, and he's hilarious.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen a couple of his videos online. It's
he's great.
Pretty helpful. Yeah. And so the final favorite, I would say, would be, do you have any daily rituals or habits that you swear by for maintaining your health and well-being?
Yeah. So I've been, most of my life I was like, I'd go to the gym for a year, off a year, on a year, off a year. So I've been on for a long time now. I'm 45. It doesn't matter how rich you are. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I know for the young people listening there, I'm invincible. I don't have to worry about it. It was just how we all felt. Like one day you'll understand, right? You're 20 listening. One day you will understand that part. Just don't get in the habits of having Oreos for dinner and ramen noodles and stuff like that. Well, establish at least some good habits. And I'm not saying I'm the healthiest guy out there, but exercise regularly. One of the things that I absolutely would suggest is a personal trainer when you can afford it at any age. A personal trainer, even if you know how to do every exercise, a personal trainer will get you to do things that you're not comfortable and outperform and get you to do things in a way that you didn't think of before. So that's one of them, personal trainer, regular exercise. And then I would say goal setting, New Year's resolutions. A lot of mine are based on health. But if you don't set goals, you don't really know where you're going. You don't have a place to go to. You're just taking the next logical step. So most of the country just wake up in the morning and they look at their calendar to see what's on it, or they go to their job, and if they get a choice of what to do, they take the next logical step. Very few people have goals that tell them where to go. And it's about establishing your vision. It's about, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and you set goals to get there. And it's, making your decisions that you make every day, moving towards your goals. And, people that make plans to achieve the goals are even more successful when you just set the goals. So goal setting, I'm big on that. I actually teach classes on that also. Personal trainer, exercise regularly, and goal setting.
So it sounds like you do a lot of trainings yourself. How would somebody find out about those and when you're offering them?
Sure. So I'm a big Facebook guy. Facebook is it's just my name, David Haberfeld. I'm sure I'll have my name on there somewhere. If you follow me on Facebook, I post about the trainings. I'll do 10 or 11 classes per year. And they vary from goal setting to entrepreneurship and income streams to vision building, construction management, short-term rentals. And I got a couple others here and there, but that's the majority of them. And I stick to what I like. For example, we taught a QuickBooks class one time, QuickBooks, introductory class. And I hired someone else to teach it because I wasn't qualified. And I was super bored all day. So I'm not going to teach that one again. So I want to do ones I like. When I'm teaching a class, it doesn't feel like work. I am teaching people about something that I care about and understand well. And the next class I have is December 6th. It's Advanced Tax Avoidance. So we all hate taxes. That's actually my most popular class. The teacher is Mark Gagner. I actively participate, but he is the professional CPA that teaches it. We actually created 20 jobs that day, and they were all our children. Yes, they learned about that, and it's all legal. And it was, we get into the gray area a little bit, but no bad stuff. And then the last class I have for the year is a goal setting class. It's Thursday, December 28th. So if anybody out there is interested, reach me out on Facebook and sign up for a class. I don't think you'll regret it.
Thanks for coming, Dave. I know we didn't make matcha. It was a little bit of an unplanned session. Obviously I didn't have the milk to make the matcha, but hopefully you'll come back one day and we'll be able to make matcha, and we'll actually do the ritual that we have.
Yeah. All right.
That sounds good.
That sounds good. Thank you for having me.